I think this is in fact a question that I should probably have posed to Ambassador Ali, but I'm sure that you can handle it. First of all, given the fall of Gaddafi's citadel of power in the Libyan capital, Tripoli, we're talking about Bab al-Azizia compound. Is this something symbolically and politically huge from your vantage point?
I think it is very, very important. And I think that, of course, the collapse of the center of power in Tripoli is very important for Libyan people. But as an African and as a Ugandan, I think it is even more important for Africa, because what we are now going to see is the fact that if a man like Gaddafi, so powerful, a man who came and stood in Uganda and told President Museveni, you and me are revolutionaries, we are born to rule, never subject ourselves to democracy. I think by the Libyan people rising up and fighting him and getting him out of power, I do not encourage people to get arms and fight, but I think it will embolden the African masses, simple people, to say, now look, President Museveni, you're a dictator, 24 years is enough, we are fed up of you, go. And I think that many, many African leaders, and I hope they are listening, they are watching Libya, they will now have to see that either you subject yourself to the people's will, you start listening to people, and if they say we don't want you, you go. But I don't think that we have to do it in that way. What we do is we want formal structures of democracy. We want to build infrastructures of democracy so that it isn't Museveni to decide, I want to be in power for as long as I want, or Gaddafi. But the people can't go there. If you're stealing people's money, they kick you out of power. I think that that is the symbolism that I feel is coming to Africa now with the fall of Gaddafi's regime.
I was, of course, going to ask you about the mechanism that we need to be looking at so that, frankly, when it is time for our leaders to go home, they should go home and rest and become elder statesmen, just like we see in the West. And yet, we don't seem to have that way of, leaving power. We seem to go through a process, frankly, that it is tantamount to humiliating the office of the president. Is this really a good way for someone that has been in power for nearly 42 years, frankly, to be living?
Well,
go ahead, please.
As Africans, we have a culture of tolerance. We have traditions which ensure that you respect elders and so on. And I think that, many, many African people, and I think that this will happen in Libya right now, they will want to make peace with those people who support Gaddafi and so on. But what has gone wrong is that the contemporary leaders of post-colonial Africa, the so-called fathers of the nations and so on, are the ones who have brought about this situation where people are so desperate, people are so they are suffering, and therefore they are radicalized to an extent of forgetting our own traditions and values and saying, look now, if Mr. Gaddafi cannot go away peacefully by us calling on him to go, then we have to fight him and humiliate him. Look at what is happening in Egypt. That man going to the court on a stretcher. And I think that therefore it should be a lesson. Yes, in a cage.
And then, look at Rababo in Ivory Coast.
Exactly. It should be a lesson now to all the dictators right now. And African Union, my view, why I say it's irrelevant, is because most of those people are dictators. Therefore, if it happens to my fellow dictator, I need to support him, or it might happen to me. So they need to learn some lessons. If you do not now subject yourself to democracy, to the people's power, peaceful transformation where you are respected and you have an exit. Okay, go, President Museveni, go to Rakitura, look after your cattle. We will help you, in fact. We will make sure you're not tortured or arrested like you did to other people. Then that is the type of way we should go. If they don't do that, I can tell you, after Tripoli, I'm seeing Sudan going that way, Northern Sudan. After that, I'm seeing Uganda going that way. I'm seeing Swaziland and all that. There will be a wind that will come. It will be a storm, in fact, coming across Africa. Please, African leaders, watch Gaddafi, listen to the voices of the people, and start abdicating, going peacefully. We should want our people to respect you your exit.
Is it a fashion really, or is it the socio-economic, political forces that obtain in place, the social, political, economic conditions really that needs to be addressed by people who have the opportunity to be in power?
Well, that's the thing that I think Africa has been very unlucky since independence. And I don't know about the earlier people who died like Lumumba. Maybe they would have done something different. But most of the leaders that we have seen in post-independent Africa, they have literally catered for their stomachs, for their little families. So that is why it explains when you are the leader, you are about to go away, you make sure your son becomes the most powerful person, you give him the army, and then he starts going to replace you. This is happening right across Africa. I think that type of approach, which does not care about people, people are the ones, it's their resources. It's each of the countries that these people are living in, our millions of people. It's their riches. Please, the leaders need to see that they provide for the people. In fact, look at China. China has lack of democracy. And one person would say they are doing a bad thing. But in terms of providing for their people, you can see that if a Chinese leader stole £1,000, I can tell you they will put him on firing squad.
Thank you. You'll be hanged. Let's go.
He will be hanged.
Let's go to the Lifeline.